Hi there, everybody. Happy Monday. It's Ashley with you for this week's Paper Tray Ink Make It Monday, and I'm going to be showing you some tips on how I created a winter watercolor scene with lots of snow. So, to start off with, I have some reinkers. This is Spring Rain, and I'm just going to add this here, and Blueberry Sky. And I picked these two colors to kind of have that blue winter grayish kind of sky. So I have watercolor paper already cut down. This one is to an A2 size, but you can pick any size. I'm just dipping a little bit of a paintbrush in water and then this Spring Rain ink. Adding a little bit as I go along. When my brush dries out, I add a little bit more water and a little bit more ink. When I ink back in with the Spring Rain ink, I like to start at the top just in case it's too much blue. It won't be so blobby towards the bottom. But if it does, it's okay. You can always kind of recover after it dries a little bit. I am designing this card so it has a watercolor frame, so to speak. So I'm not going all the way to the edge on purpose because I want that unfinished watercolor brushed box type of look. Now I'm adding a little bit of Blueberry Sky, again to the top of the skyline, just to get a little bit more of a true blue, a darker blue hue there. Adding a little bit more towards the bottom, as you'll see as this card is created and designed, you'll see why I'm adding more there. This is more of a defined or smaller paintbrush, and so I'm using this one with a little bit of Blueberry Sky to do like the horizon type of line, or you can use this to create the actual winter floor or ground, if you will. So I'm doing 3 different levels, 3 different elevations, and so that's why I chose to do them the different varying heights. You can make them rolling hills. You can do them however you want. I just chose to do 3 straight lines. I chose to stamp now with Enchanted Forest trees, and I did the trees there, the different trees. I stamped them 4 times, or I should say 3.5 times, because that one on the end didn't get quite stamped fully, and that's fine. I like the unfinished look of that, to be honest, because it's painted and artistic in nature. So I stamped the trees in prairie grass ink first, and then I did the detailed part of the tree in pine feather ink. And now I'm doing the tree trunk and a little bit of cocoa bean, and I'm not stamping the full trunk. I'm only inking just that little bottom portion there because I don't want a long trunk. Now I'm taking another tree from Enchanted Forest stamp set, and I'm stamping this in olive twist ink, ripe avocado ink. And I'm just going to stamp this one a few times in the background. And when you're creating like a forest kind of scene, just randomly place the trees kind of wherever you want. Just make sure the height fits where you need them to fit. I'm going to pick one more from Enchanted Forest stamp set, and I'm going to stamp this one in olive twist ink. So I'm going to get a post-it note because I don't want such a dark hue, so I'm just going to stamp off and then stamp it again, and I get a lighter olive twist ink color. And this helps for, I think, not only just for the color of the tree that you're getting, but also the dimension of the forest too, because some trees might not always be near, some may be a little bit far. Now I'm taking one of the trees from Winter Village stamp set, and I'm stamping it with Classic Craft ink. I did that one a couple of times because I thought it was a little bit light. Sometimes when you are stamping on watercolor paper, I find that multiple stamping to get a darker hue is necessary, and that's just because of the texture of the paper. So this time I'm using cocoa bean, and I'm going to stamp off again because I'm afraid that cocoa bean might be a little bit too dark, but it wasn't. It ended up turning out to be very similar to Classic Craft stamped twice. All right, I added a couple of more trees, and I did use cocoa bean full on. If you can see there that it's now the forest scene is filled in. So now I'm taking a little bit of gesso, I'm shaking it up, and the reason why I'm shaking it up is to incorporate it, but also because I just used the lid after I've shaken it up. I'm using a flat tip paintbrush. See, you can use a wider one or you can use a skinnier one. I'm using a skinnier one for this card because I have smaller trees. Now, if you're using a stamp set with larger trees like O Tannenbaum or something like that, you might want to use a wider flat brush. And so I just add just a little bit to the tip, and I just kind of just add dots or paint little lines depending on the size of the tree limbs or the pines on the tree or whatever. So you can do dots or whatever you like to do. Now, I know a lot of people like to use the white Uniball ink, and that is perfectly fine. I've used that for years. I just now find that the white gesso ink adds so much more texture than the Uniball, and it just gets to be a truer white as well. So I'm just adding it all over. Now I'm kind of adding dimension with snow around the tree trunks. So I can add a little bit of dimension there to the Winter Wonderland scene, winter scene. So I'm adding more there. And now I'm going to kind of add shadowing type of effect with the gesso white ink, paint, and I'm just pulling the paintbrush down. I don't have a lot. It's always a rule of thumb with anything, to me, even with cooking. You can always add more. So I always am very conservative with the amount of paint I put on my paintbrush, and I just repeatedly go over and go over if I feel like it needs to be filled in a little bit more. So as you can see here, this ends up looking like it's just on a lake, and there's reflections from there with the mirror type of image shadowing from the trees or the ice, if you will. It could also be snow. It could be a few things. This is just a winter kind of card. Alright, so my card is pretty much done. My last step is to add a sentiment. If this card could be for any reason, birthdays, whatever you want, just a note. But I'm just going to go ahead and finish off this one with a Warm Winter Wishes sentiment from 2 Feet Deep stamp set. And I'm using dark indigo ink. And I'm going to stamp it and ink it up about 3 or 4 times to make sure that dark indigo is nice and true on there. One more time. All right, so there's my finished card. As you can see, it's, and here's another card. I just wanted to show you. On this one, I used Reinker, Stamper Select, and Vintage Cream. So you can use those inks as well if you don't have any gesso. All right, so those are just some more options for you. And this is the finished card. I hope you enjoyed this week's Make It Monday to create winter watercolor scenes and some snow effects. Don't be afraid to try this technique with cover plate dies as well, or word dies, just to add snow to your word dies. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great week. For Paper Trink, I'm Ashley Cannon-Newell. Bye.